And when Jesus had received the sour wine, he said, "It is finished." And he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. This is the sixth and the penultimate saying of Christ on the cross. Here, what we see is the victorious words of Christ. "It is finished" is a word of victory. See, here we've come to the point at which everything was building up to. In Jesus' life, yes, but much more than that. Literally, all of history has been building up to this one point. From the creation of the world, from the sin of Adam plunging mankind into this hopeless state of sin, separated from God, no longer in fellowship with Him, in utter sinfulness, unable to do good, unwilling to do good. All the way through to God calling a nation to Himself in the Israelites, a covenant people, to bear His name, to follow Him. He gave them His good and perfect law. He gave them the sacrificial system whereby their sins could be covered. In this covenant with Him, they were restored to some measure of fellowship with Him. But even in this, there were so many commands, some 600 and odd commandments, these laws and statutes and ordinances to observe, foods to eat, foods not to eat. They daren't mix certain fabrics together. Not to mention the countless offerings and the various sacrifices that they brought. Sins being covered over as they confessed with the priest, as they laid hands on this sacrifice, this spotless animal that they brought at their own cost. But this was year after year. Again and again they had to do this. The sins being covered but never being paid for. And here at this point, Jesus comes in, fulfilling all of that law given, fulfilling the need that humanity had. The true Passover lamb stepping forward, the only one able to bear the wrath of God. It's at this point when He comes and pays and says, "It is finished." 3 short, powerful words. One word in the Greek, tetelestai. It is finished, paid in full. So the victory over sin has been won. The victory over Satan has been wrought. And that which separates us from God has been dealt with. And he that had us enslaved to do His will has been dealt the decisive blow. His head has been crushed, as Adam was promised. And for us here tonight, as believers, "it is finished" are arguably the greatest words we will ever hear. When we think of God in His perfection, in His holiness, and we think of us in our humanity and in our sin, all of our failed attempts to walk uprightly, all of our falling short of the glory of God, all of our inability to overcome sin and self. And in steps Jesus. He purchases our redemption in this act. He smashes the shackles of sin and of bondage, and He defeats the enemy. He says He disarmed the rulers and authorities and put them to open shame by triumphing over them in Him. And brothers, sisters, He calls us into His victory. He brings us into that victory that He has won. We needn't strive against sin in our own strength any longer. We needn't try to earn acceptance or favor from God, but only rest in the finished work of Jesus. That's why we sing, "My sin, oh the bliss of this glorious thought. My sin not in part, but the whole was nailed to the cross, and I will bear it no more. Nor will I bear it ever again. Because the wrath that was due to that sin, the sin of me, the sin of you, the sin of all those that would call on Him, was borne by Christ." He is Christus Victor, Christ, the victorious one, the one that completed that which He set out to do. And we celebrate Good Friday today, and so we should. But friends, Christ is not on the cross. Christ is not on there anymore because He is the victorious one. And all will see the glory of his victory. And we, the church, will glory in that forever. Praise God. If you'd like to stand, we'll sing another song.